free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
Hello, and welcome back. Just a flashback as I went my way through a local walk. When I was fortunate enough to be offered counselling first time round after being signed off work, I used to think that going and sitting and speaking to the counsellor and telling her everything that went on in my past, everything that was wrong in my life, where I was at that moment, I used to think that was healing. I used to think that was making the best of the situation. And in actual fact, I used it as another reason, another excuse to drink, which is it's not what healing's about. And it was only until counselling the other year that I brought this up. Before I knew I was having the counselling, I wrote a piece to the counsellor I was seeing. I was getting on the front foot and wrote the letter, had the first session. The counsellor thanked me for the effort that I put into getting on the front foot, looking at addressing problems, but in actual fact, he looked at me and he just directly asked me, "What do you want us to do with this?" I was a bit confused, but ultimately I was looking for that to regurgitate and go over all the old ground that I've already been through to heal me. When in actual fact, he said, "But we don't need to do that because we don't need to go through the past. We don't need to rake up everything because we need to concentrate on the future." We only had a few sessions, and although I thought I'd capitalised on the previous sessions years ago, it was clear in these sessions that the plan was moving forward, not looking back, because those days have gone. Everything that happened in the past is in the past, and there's nothing I can do about changing that. The way I feel, the way I think, how it impacted on me then. The only way I could do it is by moving forward now. So, in a roundabout way, I think he was basically calling out my insanity of going over and over and over the past, thinking it was healing me, and then using it as an excuse to drink, which was spiralling me and sending me backwards, which was detrimental to everything. So yeah, that's just hopefully the start of things to come with this podcast. Hello and welcome to the Unfiltered Rebuild podcast. This is episode 3, and all the pieces mattered. In this, I'm going to discuss a little bit of how and what I did to try and aid my recovery from alcoholism. In the previous episode, I touched on my rock bottom and steps into recovery. If I was to categorise my life into 3 compartments, it would be the rock bottom, the recovery, and now I'm crossing over into the rebuild of my life. There were many things I undertook in the early days of my recovery to try and stave away from alcohol, stave away from it being the crux and the crutch that enabled me to live my life. So I had to occupy my mind. And it's quite difficult because, again, I think we were in the back end of the COVID days. I was still off on sick. At this point in time, I had registered with a local drug and alcohol service. I was attending regular meetings, speaking to like-minded individuals in recovery, and also trying to keep my mind active, which is quite difficult after 30 years of addling and filling voids with alcohol and thinking I was doing things for the good of. But my thinking had become twisted, so a lot of things I thought I was good at, I really wasn't. And just as an example of how twisted your thinking can become, I used to be an avid runner. I used to do quite a few miles a week. Since stopping drinking, I've petered out with the running, although I keep trying to pick it back up, but I've gained weight. I'm not fit. But when I analyse all this, my running was a form of self-punishment. A lot of it was to do with using the time out on the road to try and think of reasons and excuses as to how I can get out of the hole I've potentially dug when I was sober enough to think about what I'd done and work out. So once I did put down the drink and start on the recovery, I didn't feel the need to run anymore, which is backwards in itself. But again, I attribute that to the stinking thinking that alcohol leads you down. Anyway, that's a different story because I'm getting older, I'm getting bigger, but I also do want to recover in that way as well and get back to what I loved, but for different reasons. So, back to some of the things I did. I actively went to meetings, as I've said, spoke to people. Reading was quite difficult because when I thought I was a really good reader, I actually wasn't taking anything in. It was much the same as watching TV while drunk. I've since, in recovery, watched many box sets that I've spent hours, months, almost years watching previously, thinking that I understood what had gone on. In actual fact, I couldn't remember anything. So that's been an eye-opener. But yeah, with reading, it became quite difficult. So, yeah, other ways of occupying my mind. I reached out to a friend and she did a lot of jigsaws in her spare time. So I did. She lent me a few. I'd lay on the floor, just put some music on, a cup of coffee, lots of soft drinks, and while away the hours piecing bits together, sifting through the jumbled mess of a jigsaw, and then spending that time and effort to get that end result. I mean, actually, that's a really good metaphor, and partly why the title of this is as such, because it is about putting the pieces together. It's been torn apart, and you have to, bit by bit, find out which pieces go where and put it back together. So, I did that. And it was really cathartic, it was really helpful. I could focus, which is pretty much something I struggled with for many years because my focus had gone. I had different focuses while I was drunk, but sober-wise, difficult, different kettle of fish. But ultimately, not impossible. So, jigsaws became the thing. And then, ultimately, as time went on, as my focus increased, I was starting to slowly put things back to perspective. But in the meantime, I was also undertaking other things. Listening to other people in meetings and online enabled me to sort of work out a little game with myself. Now, I'd heard some of the sayings in various meetings and online, even in counselling, such as fear, forget everything and run, although for the purposes of this, it'll be forget everything and rebuild. Now, I can appreciate more than most that being able to forget everything and rebuild or run is really not that easy a quest. Spent many years doing it and drinking through that, so it's not an easy one, but it's a good starting point. I touched on previously about how my drinking had pushed me to the deep depths of loneliness. So when I was on my own, when I was thinking and when I was putting the jigsaws together, I started to write more, just jotting a few notes down. I wrote a little journal that I've reflected on, and partly thankful to that I've got some content for this. But, you know, when I felt alone kind of has a negative connotation to it. Some people like that, some people don't. But my alone was different. It was kind of the alone where I yearned to drink. So rather than dwell on that, I used to turn it into something positive. So what is alone? What is my new alone? How can I turn that into a positive? Well, breaking it down, stopping drinking is a whole new adventure in itself. And with it comes a life of new experience alone. And that's where I am. continuously having a life of new experiences and lots of positive ones and things that are not centered around drinking. So that was one that I often reflect on and I do mention to people. So I do think it helped me massively. Alongside all the jigsaws and everything, audiobooks became a good friend of mine because listening was easier than reading and retaining and picking salient points out. A lot of my situations and in the early days of my sobriety and towards the end of my drinking days, I had a lot of resentments and anger. And again, through listening to people in the groups and the power of AA, resentments are a big thing because resentments lead to all sorts of issues and problems. So when I was getting angry and I needed a reason or something to break it down as to why, I turned anger into another negative gesture enabling resentment. My anger was pushing me to react badly to situations. It's part of recovery. My recovery is learning how to deal with those situations positively. So whenever I am feeling tense, annoyed, angry, I have to reflect on that and try and remember that it's another negative gesture enabling resentment. And then that helps me push forward with it. And actually, why am I angry about that? I can dissect it. I can think about it. My reaction times become slower and my reactions become positive. When discussing who you are as an individual, I think it's important to remember and list your attributes as well as those skills and such that are not going to contribute positively. I like to think that, yes, even though I was an alcoholic, I am an alcoholic, and my drinking did some things, that I am a caring person, and caring became considerate, ambitious, responsible, intuitive, nurturing and generous. You know, that's what caring is for me. That's the person I want to be, and which is why I'm trying to put something together to help others. And I will reiterate, I'm not a trained counsellor, I'm not a psychologist, and I'm not a professional in the mental health field. I'm just doing this in the hope that something might resonate with somebody. I also needed to work out how all this was going to come together. How was I going to achieve all this? What is how? Well, how is honesty, openness and willingness. Honesty with yourself and others, openness to change or seeing things from a different point of view, and the willingness to put those things into action. That's my how. That's how I deal with stuff. And then we have the good old K.I.S.S. It's either with or without a silent S on the end. Keep it simple. Stupid. Or just keep it simple. Because quite often, people in similar situations have a tendency to overthink, to overanalyze, and to scrutinise everything to the nth degree, which then becomes to the detriment of their recovery and their mental health. Overthinking, overanalysing, caring too much about what other people think, and lacking that self-care. Keep it simple. And then, as I'm doing now, one of my favourite parts of my recovery and another parts of the jigsaw was God. And as it says in the meetings, it's a God of my understanding. I'm not religious by any means. And my God is where I am now, in the great outdoors, doing this podcast, tripping up, but also putting something together. Because as I'm walking and talking, I'm healing. So God for me is my great outdoors. There are a couple of other things I'd touch on, such as how you've got to learn to love yourself and not stop believing in yourself. Because that is vital. You've got to believe in yourself. You've got to believe that you can do it. Accept help. You know, you don't have to sail on your own. You can get help, get better. And then a quote, and I can't remember where I got it from, so I have to forgive me whoever came up with this, but strength does not come from winning. Your struggles develop strengths when you go through hardship and decide not to surrender. That is strength. And I like to think that I wrote that down because it resonated with me in terms of feeling weak, at my weakest, desolate, alone, fearful, scared, angry. But yet, not giving in to those feelings and actually digging deep and summoning the strength to overcome. And it's been a battle, and it hasn't been easy, and I'm not here to paint this as a pretty picture. This is the unfiltered rebuild, and it has been hard at times, a struggle, a battle. But I am 2 weeks short. I've been 5 weeks sober. But each day as it is, I take each day as it comes. And some days, depending on how things are in my life, hour by hour, because I never know. But as long as I can retain and remain strong, ask for help, then I know I'm going to be all right. And my life is so much better these days. I've developed a new insanity, if you like, because doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the result to be different is the definition of insanity. But actually, I can tweak this. I can do things better. I can improve my life and in turn help improve the lives of others just by walking, talking and trying. Part of my recovery, and I have to laugh at this because this is me. I am impulsive. So none of this was planned, the podcast or anything. But within a week or so of thinking about the idea, this is episode 3. Granted, the first one was an introduction. But this is how, again, I rush into things sometimes. Sometimes might be to the detriment, might put myself under pressure. But sometimes I have a burning desire just to get out there what's in my head. And for positive reasons, to try and help others. And that's why this is important to me. Because I am guilty as anything and a default of character. And I think that's the term I was looking for earlier. But as this is unfiltered, it doesn't matter. Defaults of character, yeah. It's my impulsivity. And, you know, the negative side of my impulsivity can sometimes lead to poor decision making. But ultimately, this decision is a good one. And if it can help, then I'm happy with that. So, yeah, it's looking for the positives in everything. So, part of that impulsivity means when I have an idea such as this, I have to do something about it. And I will spend so many hours on the build-up to doing it and then just do it. I touched on the fact that in the previous episode, the reason I've wanted to do it for a while, but didn't want to have my voice out there. I've already spoken about that, so we're not going to go over it again. But ultimately, over the last 5 years, well, not just 5 years, in my life in general, trying to be an upstanding and good individual, I still have learned things that I can put into practice. And, you know, I can quote from books. I can quote Dr. Stephen Covey and his line in 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, where he quotes, "People can only upset you if you let them." And I learned that many years ago, and I listened to that and I learned it. And I tried not to let that happen. The only trouble was introduce alcohol into that mix, and then it doesn't work. But now, seldom do other people bother me, because I don't have to get angry, I don't have to bite back, I don't have to rise to it. I can analyse it, I can look at them and think, what's going on in your life? I can shrug it and just say, whatever. I haven't got the energy to be, wasting time thinking and worrying about what you think about me or what you've just said to me. And that energy is my energy that I want to conserve and use for something good for me and for the good of others. So I've learned a lot of things. And over the coming podcasts, I'm going to do not so much book reviews, but I'm going to pick out points from books that I've read, particularly in the last year or so, as my mind has improved, my mental health's improved, my ability to retain information has improved. Never ever thought that alcohol would have had such an impact on my mind in terms of memory, retaining information. When I look back, it zapped absolutely all the fun out of everything. All the TV programs I'd watched and then couldn't remember, all the books that I'd read and thought I'd understood, and actually they were just lines on a page. Now, I do try and read as much as I can. Sometimes I'm tired, so I can't. Or I will have 2 books on the go, which, it's a bit brave for me, actually. But it's all about what do I want from it. Picking the book that I think I'm going to get something out of. Speaking to people who I might get something out of. And again, I think it was Dr. Stephen Covey again who suggested removing yourself from the people who hurt you the most. Again, easier said than done, but actually, I don't align myself with people who take from me and not give back. And I mean that in terms of, would they be there if I ever needed them? I would always be there for them. Or is their negativity so much so that it would impact on me and they don't actually contribute positively? Because I haven't got time in my life for that. I will listen, I will help. And, you can talk till you're blue in the face to somebody and explain how you perceive their situation to be. But if they're not going to listen and they're just going to do what they feel or what they want to do, then, it just feels a little bit like almost a waste of, not so much a waste of energy, but it's the time and effort. When actually, if they were similar to me, had my problems, I'm more than willing to put myself out there to help anybody else. I've seen the benefits, I've reaped the benefits. So, again, when we talk about putting things together, putting your life back together, speaking to people, asking for help, being strong, being brave, investing in yourself, investing in your self-care. And some of that self-care can be helping others, because I find that really cathartic and beneficial. Then, taking all those things into consideration and going back to the jigsaw analogy, all the pieces really do matter. Thank you for listening to this week's podcast. And once again, if you are triggered or concerned, worried about anything that you've heard or listened to in the podcast, please see the links in the bio for support agencies. And within Great Britain, and please check out your doctors, your local doctors, mental health teams, etc. And there is also an email address in the link. Should anybody wish to comment, feedback, or request any avenues of support, more than willing to try where I can. Thank you.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.